My name is Anne-Marie Pearman. I am joined today by Georgina Baillie. Georgina was thrown into the public spotlight in about 2008 due to Johnathan, Ross and Russell Brand leaving a message on her grandfather's voicemail, which they decided to put onto Radio 2. Andrew Sachs, who was best known as Manuel from Fawlty Towers, and it went all over the news, all over everywhere, and threw Georgina unwittingly into the spotlight. And she's joining me today. So thank you for coming, Georgina.
Okay. I like being on this side of the table. This is good.
So first question. So you were born in 1985, so you've got a significant birth year.
I know, don't remind me. 40.
Well, the year you were born, I turned 16, and it was the year that I left school. So when did you leave school, and what did you do when you left school?
Oh, okay. So I left school at 18. I went to a private all-girls school, which I've mentioned a few times, but it wasn't really the best place for me. And I know that my family, I was very privileged to go, but it just didn't feel very supportive because I wasn't from one of the bloodlines that go there. So I left at 18, and then I went a bit wild. My parents got divorced, and I was sort of thrown into a being independent situation with really no preparation for that whatsoever, because it was kind of a blind side. But yeah, some wacky experiences, let's call them that, between 19 and like 21, and then, well, all through the 20s, really.
So what was your first job then when you became independent?
Okay, so my first job was a cage dancer.
Oh, wow.
At a rock club in London, and it was called Sin City. And before that, when on my 18th birthday, I auditioned for the same job in another venue in Angel, the Electroworks,
Right,
where Slimelight is. And so that was, it didn't feel like a job because it really was just like me being absolutely wasted in a cage, and I've got these wonderful bars to hold me up. But after that, I was really, really lost. I had bailiffs at my door, and so the internet was fairly new and mysterious at that time. So I answered a modelling ad. I accepted drugs and booze at the shoot, which obviously was a huge error. And I signed a model release when I was wasted. Now, that particular mistake of my life is preserved in pixelated magnificence for everybody to have a look at, and anybody who wants to dig it out, it's okay. Better porn is available, so like, why would you want to watch that? But that was like the next bit. And I also, in between those times, I worked at a pet shop. Yeah, I worked at a pet shop, and I just love animals.
Do you have any pets at the moment?
I do. I have my baby girl Willow. She's a fluffy princess cat, and I'm becoming quite a cat lady in my middle age.
Crazy cat lady.
Yeah, I'll own it. Yeah.
And you said when you were dancing in the cage, you were wasted. So how did you, I mean, obviously alcohol is legal. Other substances, how did you get into that sort of side of things?
Well, it just kind of went hand in hand with the friendship group I had at the time. And we were all young, we were all experimenting, and it was fun for a while. But then I noticed that I was using differently to my friends. So I would want to be alone with the stuff so I could do it properly, right? Meaning I don't want to share and I don't want to hear you talk. So that was like the first red flag. I should have known. But, when you've got the excuse of, I'm a 20-year-old girl, I'm having fun, it's really hard to sort of put the addict label on yourself at that point.
Do you think you also used it as a coping mechanism for working within the adult entertainment industry as well?
Absolutely, because once you make that one mistake and it's, you know, I forgot about it for several years, but once you've made that one mistake, you can do it again because the bailiffs have come back and, you know, they want to take your computer. It was like a big white computer like they had back in the day. And I needed that. And so I did it again. And it was it's mental that these people thought it was okay to get someone wasted and get them to sign a release.
Just targeting you because you're vulnerable, I guess.
Well, yeah, and also, I really, really love drugs. I loved them, and they knew that, right? But I didn't want. Some people say like, well, why didn't you just stop? It's like, well, because my brain is wired differently to yours. My brain is wired so the dopamine that I get from a line or a drink or whatever, pills, whatever, it hits me in a different way. So the lizard brain, you know, the amygdala, I'm like, if I do not get more of this, I'm going to die. That desperation, like taking your next breath, I've said before. And so
So when you talk about that, because when I was speaking to Nadia in my last episode, because she's got ADHD as well, but with her it's like donuts. So she gets a low dopamine hit, she goes for donuts. So I suppose it's the same sort of things.
It's the same part of the brain, 100%. I can be like that with chocolate, but then I have to go to boot camp.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I know you've spoken about, I've written it down because I couldn't remember. I'm going to have to read it with my glasses. Because PMDD.
I've just started wearing them.
I turned 46 before I had to start wearing them, but yeah, I'm wearing them now.
You win.
£1 from Home Bargains, anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm allowed to have expensive glasses because I sit on them.
Exactly, I'm the same. So premenstrual dysphoric disorder. The reason I mentioned that at this stage is because you were talking about chocolate. And when I actually wonder, because I'm obviously menopausal now, but when I was having my period, I used to crave chocolate, red wine and Doritos.
Oh.
And I actually wondered whether, because I used to go a bit psychotic, and I actually wondered whether I might have had a bit of that. So how were you diagnosed with that?
So this is really important, and I'm glad that you asked me about this. Thank you, because, psychotic, that's how I would describe it. So this is a fairly new discovery, this particular illness. It's not only, you know, debilitating sometimes, but it also can be life-changing because I'm not in my right mind in luteal phase. Luteal is the 10 days, roughly 11, 12 days before you come on your period. So sorry for the guys watching if you're grossed out by that. But no, fuck it.
It's part of life.
Yeah, where do you think you came from? Anyway, my brain will go off somewhere else and I am so easily triggered. I get suicidal, anxious, paranoid. But the thing is, my sponsor and I, we look back over my relapse history from drinking, right? It was always in that time. So I was told by a few of my friends, like, sounds like you've got PMDD. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I got it diagnosed. I had to go private for the diagnosis because I saw a lot of doctors on the NHS and they're just overstretched. You know, this nobody really knows about what this really is, and 1 in 20 women are said to have it. So there's a big chance that you did have PMDD because I get psychotic and I have no insight. So if I have my phone in my hands when I'm in that state, I can do some real damage. So I've sort of had to train myself to, like, don't touch the phone today because I've ruined so many opportunities. And it presents a little bit like bipolar or borderline personality disorder. But then come on the period, everything's fine. And it's just all consuming and triggers, like you're triggered by, you know, a leaf blowing, anything. And I eat chocolate all month round. But yes, especially at that time. And I did crave wine. I had a lot of it.
So you ended up as one of the backing singers in Adamant's group, and I actually saw you live. I didn't realise it was you at the time. I think it must have been about 2013 maybe-ish. I know I was in my early 40s, I think. So, yeah. And when we were talking yesterday, you mentioned you'd gone into music before then. So were you in a band or something like that?
Yes, I was. So as I was thrust into the spotlight, there was a long list of "I'll make you a star" people, and I was young and silly and like, oh, they've finally seen how special I am, you know, with no talent whatsoever at that point. And so this producer, who was a friend of my dad's, did a wonderful, project called Maria Maria with me, and he made me look and sound great. Jamie, he's a wonderful, wonderful professional guy, and he was one of the only ones that was professional with me. And so we did a video, and it was like movie quality video. But yeah, just like I was still too much. I was already a wild girl by then. So I basically effed that up royally. Lots of people lost money, and I'm well aware. But I didn't really feel like I was a singer. I felt like an imposter. I just thought like, well, I think he's changed my voice there, but that's all right. And then after that, I met Adam, and it was a friendship at first, and then we started, playing around with the guitar and singing, and he was working with a few other people. He brought me in to do some backing vocals with Annabella Lewin.
Oh, yeah.
And that was great. I love her.
I remember her. Wow, wow.
Yeah. So I kind of just, like many things in my life, stumbled into it. But it was great, and I had to really learn on the job because I knew that I wasn't really a singer.
But did you enjoy the time doing it?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. It was nice to, have a focus other than, my fanny. Because that's what I was known for. And it was everywhere. Everywhere.
And I think you were talking, I think it was on James English, you mentioned when you were working with Adam, you'd have a couple of drinks before you went on stage.
Oh, yeah.
I remember him, obviously I'm a lot older than you, but I remember his goody two-shoes, don't drink, don't smoke phase. And I know since then I've seen pictures of him as an older man with pints of beer and cigarettes. So was he aware of you doing all that at the time as well? Or? No, he wasn't, no.
No, he wasn't. But he was very supportive, and he introduced me to Carol Kaplan.
I know that name.
She was in Shock, the
Right,
dance
okay,
troupe.
okay.
And she really, really helped me. She taught me all about fitness, nutrition, and everything like that.
Okay.
And so I did manage to narrow it down to like 1.5 drinks, which I found was the magical amount before you go on stage. But I used to get trashed on stage, and Adam was not happy about it.
No.
Of course. But at the time I was like, why are you like spoiling my fun? So yeah, I had to really get serious.
Yeah.
And I picked out every single backing vocal. I sat there with a record and I was like, there.
Yeah. And so how did that come to an end then?
Just got fed up of me.
Oh dear.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
I think he just got fed up of me. I'd been touring with Adam for 2.5 years, which was like, that's the length of a degree pretty much, a degree in rock and roll, degree in touring, you know. So that was a really wonderful experience that I never would have got otherwise, right? And I kind of felt like he was ready to kind of,
Yeah.
So I went to an audition for drama school. The Poor School in King's Cross is no longer there. And I got it.
Yeah.
So I went there. That was the next bit.
Yeah.
So I told him I have been accepted, and then he kindly contributed to my first year. Well, having a mental health diagnosis is less stigmatized now, but when I
Yeah.
met him, it was very stigmatized. I met him in 2010.
Yeah.
And so in that amount of time, 15 years, oh,
No. Scary, isn't it, where it goes?
whoa. Anyway, yeah, but in that time, you know, people are much more understanding.
Yeah. Because I remember, I mean, it was similar to the Saxgate incident for you when he, I think he threw a carburettor through a pub window or something like that. I think it was 2002. I can't even remember the year. So that's sad. But yes, so I remember that, and it was all over the news at the time, and he was
Where's
all over
the
news.
compassion?
I know, it's that sort of like, it's almost like making somebody into a joke, and they're a human being at the end of the day. You know,
Yeah.
people just forget that people are human beings, and people seem to think it's getting better, but then you look at social media, is it really getting better?
I have
you
to
know?
like ration that for myself
Yeah.
because I can get into the old compare and despair, you know. And I tell all of like my sponsees or like younger girls, I'm like, just 1 hour a day is plenty for promotion.
Yeah.
Please, and especially this time in the month, like if you have PMDD, do
Yeah.
not even look at it
No.
if you can avoid it.
Yeah, I know it can sort of be soul destroying. I mean, I know somebody who's a TikTok influencer, and she does 3 videos a day. And I thought I couldn't even think of how to do 1 video a day, let alone 3. I do about 2 a month on YouTube. That's about it. I can't think of anything more than that.
Yeah,
So-
it's people sequence them.
Yeah.
Like they like 8 o'clock. This will go.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I just can't. I mean, I do YouTube, but TikTok is sort of, I do that a little bit, but I don't really get TikTok.
I wouldn't. I'm past that. Like I don't know. Like what do the kids do on TikTok?
I know.
Woo!
I know, but yeah, TikTok, and I just don't get it at all. Even though I do scroll it, but I just
Kids these days.
I know.
We
The
used to
kids-
just have MySpace, and we were grateful.
yeah. What did I have in my day? I think we just had
The book,
a book and tapes and the library.
carrier pigeons,
Carrier pigeons, yes.
quills. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, that wasn't a bitchy dig. Like,
No.
sorry.
Yeah. She said she's old.
Horrible. Well, no, because I'm like, I'd say I'm middle-aged.
Yes, I'm still, even though I'm 16 years older than you. I think middle age, I don't know how long it goes on for now, because it used to, at one point, 50 was meant to be the new 30. So really, it's probably still only like 30 or 25. I don't know.
I feel about 5.
Yes, I feel about 25. So, you know, I think that's it. You don't never change in your head. That's the thing, isn't it? You just don't change in your head. Sometimes I wake up and I feel a bit achy in my back, and it's like, yeah.
Do you creep? I've started clicking. My knees click.
Yeah, I've always clicked though. Even when I was young, I clicked.
Oh. Yeah, I did actually click for anyway.
Yeah.
This is dull talk. Sorry.
Totally off subject. Anyway, so you got yourself clean and sober eventually, though, didn't you? And I know, going to bring Mr. Brand into it again,
okay.
because you did say that. I know you've been open that he did help you.
Did?
And obviously, with his issues a year ago, and maybe ongoing issues, legal issues, you were brought back into the spotlight about a year or so ago, weren't you? Because of
Yeah, because they were, as usual, trying to use me as a mouthpiece or
Yeah,
a puppet. And
yeah.
I'm not going to say anything that isn't true anymore.
know, yeah.
I cannot do that, because if
Yeah.
I do that, I put my recovery in jeopardy.
Yeah.
Because, oh no, you're a liar, you're a
Yeah.
fraud, you're ruining this guy's life. And it doesn't affect me now.
Yeah.
You know, it's I'm not a puppet.
No.
I'm not going to be brought onto things to shame Russell because of something that happened to me with him years
Yeah.
and years that he's made an amends for.
Yeah.
That's all I can ask for
Yeah.
from someone like me. I've behaved awfully.
Yeah.
And I've had to go back and do the amends. And it's very liberating because I think he's a good person. I do think, and he was just young and unrecovered fully. So I mentioned cross addiction, like
Yeah.
that's something that can happen. Like you switch from a substance to a behavior. So a lot of people will switch to an eating disorder or a sex addiction or a gambling addiction or anything, because that itch will be scratched, and it will be scratched by the substance, something as dopamine giving as the substance, or a bullet or something like that.
Yeah.
Or you can recover, which is the hard one, but is the one that is sustainable eventually. If you can get to that point, which is very, very hard, because it's scary to think like, well, I can never do it again.
Yeah.
Never, ever, ever. And I just think, like, I'm not going to do it today.
No.
And I've said that every day for nearly 5 years.
Yeah. Well, they say with alcoholism, anyway, you're always an alcoholic. Even when you give up, you're still an alcoholic.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. I would say, yes, I'm an alkie for sure.
Yeah.
Because I'm a work in progress. You know, nobody's perfect. And I used to think I have to be perfect. But I don't.
No.
I don't. It's nice.
And Russell paid for your recovery at one point, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So I'd already been to rehab once. My family were like, nah, not again. Because it's a fortune.
Yeah.
And so we had a mutual friend, and she told Russell about the situation, and he sent me to this really rough rehab up north. And it was good because it dried me out. It was like high security, like you couldn't go out and get a drink. It was just not going to happen. And so that kept me safe for about 7 months. And then, you know, rehab works for some people, good for them, doesn't work for me. You have to leave rehab and go straight to a recovery, like a recovery group of some kind. So I didn't do that. No. I thought I could do it myself. No. And so I had to be really, really broken and run out of all kind of bargaining and methods that I could trick myself, like, oh, well, if I only drink on Saturdays, that would be okay. But then it's suddenly Tuesday, and you're like, how the hell did I get here? If you're me.
Going into rehab, what is that experience actually like then? Are you sort of like locked away from the world? Or?
Yeah. So it depends what substance that you come in wanting to be detoxed from. So there's a detox at the start. So they'll keep the detox people away from the people who already have been, and they're doing therapy and group therapy and scary stuff like that. But I had a week detox because so if you're an alcoholic, it's very dangerous to just quit. Like cold turkey, if you're a daily drinker and you're a top-up drinker like I was, you need to be taken off medically. So they put you in the detox unit, and there's a nurse and a doctor, and they taper you off. But unfortunately, they have to give you meds. So a lot of people are like, let me stay in detox. Let me stay in detox. But then that's when the real work starts, is like the therapy, the group therapy, all the different types of people that are there. You know, personalities clash. And when we're not very well as addicts, we can be vile. I was such a bitch on many occasions because I had no humility. So I thought, I know best. But Georgie, you're in rehab. You know, it's like, it's crazy. But we are like petulant children.
Yeah.
Addicts are adult children. That's what I've been told before, and I've come to find that it's actually quite accurate. The first rehab I went to was very posh. So grandma sent me to the best place. You know, and it was like a little holiday. And then I stayed sober a bit longer after that. I went to a secondary rehab. That was nice, but then that didn't last either because I didn't do the work. And then the final expedition Russell sent me was that place up north, and I just really didn't know how to communicate with a lot of the girls there, and I was very judgmental. I was rude. I acted like I felt I was better than them. And the thing is, the irony is that I felt like shit about myself.
Forgiveness kicked in, was it when you were feeling shit about yourself? So you're like taking out on other people, I suppose.
So
or sort of like reflecting, maybe.
I totally agree with that, because it's like I felt like so rubbish and like a used towel kind of covered in grease that I projected it onto other people because that was easier than looking at myself.
Yeah.
So looking at oneself is very hard because that rehab, they didn't mollycoddle anybody. It was really hard, but it was great, but it didn't last.
So what do you think changed? What do you think made it last for you then?
This time,
Yeah.
well, there was a horrible thing that happened December 2019. I basically missed Christmas.
Right.
So that was really bad because I got myself into a real dangerous situation on Christmas Eve. And I finally managed to stop on February, just after Valentine's, 16th, Pancake Day. So yeah, that's my sobriety date is February 16th, 2020. Yeah.
So, and you haven't looked back since then. Have you ever been tempted? How's that journey been like for
At
you?
the beginning, when there's still a bit in your bloodstream,
Yeah.
it's so hard.
Yeah.
Like because one teaspoon, one drop can.
Yeah.
Whoop. But now it's like, well, it floats through my head,
Yeah.
right? It would be weird if it didn't, but it's not on me.
And was it alcohol that was your real problem then? The other substance? No.
Everything.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my things was Coke. I loved Coke. That was lovely at the time, but really horrible stuff. Ecstasy back in the day. Lucky to be alive. There was one time where I was dating a drug dealer.
God.
When I was 20.
Yeah.
And I could have all the ecstasy pills that I wanted. And so I was lying in my bed with head rush and like this. And that's what the first time that I spoke to God. And I said, like, do you think, like, can you spare my life? And whoever listened, because I felt like I was dying. It was really bad. I must have had about 8 pills. Just no regard to myself, because I felt like I'm worthy.
Yeah.
But then it's like you panic and you're like, I want to live.
Yeah. You did speak about some spiritual experiences you've had, actually. There's the demonic experience.
God.
Would you like to talk
Yes,
about
I
that?
will. So this is where people start to think she's a bit odd. But I am very sort of spiritual these days. So when was it now? 2008, just before it all broke. I was working in a peep show, right? And I believe that I saw something that was not human that day through the window. And it scared the crap out of me. And it's like it looked in my head and it kind of, it saw what my base desire was, which was fame at the time. I thought I deserve to be famous. I don't have any talent, but I do.
I heard you talk. Did you have some suicide attempts and where you felt somebody pull you back as well?
That's right, yeah. So my last day of drinking, I was on the windowsill. I've been on the windowsill a few times in my life. It seems to be what I've gone for. And I was just like, look, every single person in my life's disgusted at me right now. But I can't stop drinking because when the thoughts happen, then I want to just do that. So I thought, they'll get over it. They won't miss me that much, which is psychotic. It wasn't making sense. It was that point, we call it in recovery the jumping off place. So it's like, I'm just going to check out because I can't stand being alive without it, but I also can't stand it because it's making me ill and it's making everybody hate me. So I just thought, like, I mean, there's no rational thought there.
No.
But I was thinking crazy. And so I was sitting on the window ledge and I'd chucked down like a few of my belongings earlier. I don't know why. And yeah, back inside, landed on my arse.
Gosh.
And then my mother, who put up with so much of my crap, So I'm very grateful. She took me to A&E. I told them I was suicidal. I was having hallucinations as well. I was seeing demons and just really scary stuff. And they put me under a crisis team because I've been sectioned before, but this time they managed it from, like, they came to my house every day and they gave me lorazepam, but it was okay because I was detoxing, you know. So we did the detox, Mum and I. It was very, very hard because lorazepam, I believe it's a benzodiazepine. So it means that when you do eventually come off them, it is the worst. Like, I'd say it's worse than coming off booze because I felt like my skin was crawling. But then I really had enough. That morning, when we went to hospital, I was like, yeah, I think this is it. Like, an alcoholic knows when they have genuinely had enough. And before, it was like I had all kinds of reservations. Well, what if the world ends? Or what if, like, I have all the money that I need for the rest of my life? Or what if I finally get a rock star husband? But now it's like, no, because I go back to being alone in my bed, surrounded by debris, shaking. You know, like, the withdrawal from alcohol is horrible. Horrible. I can't be asked to do it again.
Yeah. When you were talking, so I know of somebody who he was drinking too much, and I don't think he realised he was an alcoholic, although I could have seen that he was an alcoholic, because if he made himself a vodka and tonic or something, be like a glass like that, and it'd be that much of vodka and not that much of tonic.
Yeah, he might be one of us.
Yeah. And he was in pain, and he stopped taking alcohol because he was having stomach cramps.
Yeah.
And basically his body went into shock. He ended up in hospital.
Yeah, that's what happens.
And he was seeing, like, ghosts and
Yeah.
things, and, you know, it was...
That's what happened
Yeah.
to me. They're called the Delirium Tremors.
Right.
And they can be, like, I was seeing demons that were as real as you are. Like, it was horrible. But if you do come off it and you're drinking to that excess every day, you can die.
Yeah.
Like, which is a horrible fact, because when you're finally ready to stop and you can't fully stop, it's like you'll have the one to stop the shakes, and if you keep that down, you'll be all right. But then you're off to the races again because it's in your bloodstream, and it's just a nightmare. And I can't be bothered to do early recovery again.
No.
It is so hard.
Yeah.
And so I just think it's much easier if I don't do it.
And you've gone into art now, and I remember I heard you say that was part of a recovery thing as well. So would you like to talk about that?
I would love to talk about that. So I went to a secondary rehab after the first posh one. That was also a posh secondary rehab, where I met a load of my friends that I still have. And what was the question?
I was just saying that you started up art recovery.
Yes, so I went to secondary rehab, and one of the parts of the therapy it was an art class. She was very careful not to call it art therapy, but it was the best therapy for me, because I hadn't really thought about drawing anything for several years, and I had a natural talent for it at school. And then I just stopped because I had a horrible teacher at A-level, which is the story that I hear all the time. And I should have just told her to fuck off, but I should have just told her to F off, but I didn't, because I was a compliant good girl. And yes, I'll write an essay about Van Gogh. And I'm not good at that.
No.
Like, I'm good at actually
Doing.
Yeah. But it was great. Like, I got out everything. And my first sketchbook from 2017, 2016. Wow. Like, it was really brutal, but it was like just going through all the traumas. And as they came back to me, because obviously in blackout, I can't account for several days, you know, if you add it all together. So I did at the beginning get flashbacks a lot, and they would be vivid. They would be vivid, smell, taste, you know, bodily sensation, all of that stuff. And so I had to work through that in therapy. And I was lucky I had a really great therapist. And unfortunately, that time I went off and tried to do it on my own when I left. And it just, for me, it just can't be done.
So now you are actually making your art into a profession now.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of artwork. I've purchased a couple of your prints, one for my mother for Mother's Day, Manuel.
Thank you.
Being carried by Basil Fawlty.
Yeah, that's a classic.
And one, because it's a memory of mine when I saw you with Adam in, I don't know what year it was actually, maybe
2011,
possibly
12?
something like that. It was the O2 Academy in Birmingham. And
12, I think.
yeah, so I got up into that as well.
Ah, was that the one with Twinkle? Was she there as well?
No, it's just you and him. I think it's because I remembered you and him, so I wanted that because it just reminded me of that time. Yeah, so I've got those two, and also you've got devils and angels, and you've got a whole variety, a whole smorgasbord.
A smorgasbord. Yes.
Of
Yes.
artwork that you do, and also your dress. You've
Yes, I have. Yeah, the dress. So it started out because I got paint on some of my clothes and I was gutted.
Right.
And then I thought, actually, that looks pretty good. And so I started doing more of it.
Yeah.
And I've just recently made it into a business. And I've got one really great customer called Angela. Big shout out to her. She's purchased a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I love like taking something that someone's discarded and making it beautiful. You know, I guess you could say I'm a womble.
making good use of all the things that
That's
everyday
all fun.
folk leave behind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you do commissions as well, don't you?
I do, yeah. So I really like to, like, it's always an honour when someone asks me to do a relative or a pet or something like that. And I've had to do quite a lot of pet memorials lately,
Aw.
which is sad but also wonderful because I asked the parents of the pet, do you have any videos? Because I want to see them frolicking and like they were in their heyday. And then you try and get their little personality out.
Yeah.
And it's, I take great pride in that work. Also, the angels and the demons and all that stuff, that's all just processing everything from addiction.
Yeah.
And I have one called the Addiction Banshee, and she's like a very scary looking woman. And she was so loud for the first year I was sober. And now it's like...
So just flick
Nice
her away.
try. Yeah. But you have to be vigilant. You know, I
Yeah.
can't get complacent because if I get complacent, I'm in danger. So everything that I've gained in my life will just go.
So are there any triggers that you have to avoid that might bring you back to addiction, do you think?
So one of them is that I don't keep doing the stuff that I'm meant to sustain my recovery. It's a program. I have to think about it every single day, but it's no longer a chore, you know. Now it's a pleasure. And triggers, if I go out, because I'm able to go out now in the evenings, like I never thought I'd be able to, but if somebody buys me a drink and they've accidentally or not put booze in it, that's like, if I have one sip of it, that's okay because the intention is not drinking.
Yeah.
So I have to then excuse myself because that can start me off. Like I remember I relapsed one year from a chocolate. I had a chocolate.
Chocolate liqueur or just...
Yeah. So I went to drop my friend off at Euston, and there was a Hotel Chocolat, and there was a girl there handing out free chocolate, and I was like 2 weeks sober, and I just thought, oh wow, this is great. And then I barely even chewed it, so I was so happy to see chocolate, and it just sparked.
Yeah.
everything off. And then this is how insidious it is. I found myself going back to the chocolate shop and seeing if I could accidentally have another one. And then I was having one on purpose. The next day I went back. This is what we're talking about here. This is not normal. Like, Euston was nowhere near where I was living, but I thought, oh, that was a good feeling. I'm going to go back there. And then, before you know it, oh, well, a Bailey's isn't that bad, is it?
No.
There you are. And that was that Christmas when I missed Christmas. And I have to do a living amends by always being there at Christmas.
Yeah.
And doing a lot of the work at Christmas because my family deserved that.
And did you have to change your friendship group as well as part of that?
Yeah, so there's a saying in recovery circles that used to really piss me off, but I get now.
Yeah.
The only thing you have to change is everything.
No biggie then.
So I used to have like loads of acquaintances, but all we had in common was our drug of choice. So I found that my circle now is small. I keep it small because I genuinely care about these girls and they genuinely care about me. I never really had that before. I never used to hold on to friends for longer than about a month because I would piss them off or they piss me off. Or, they didn't share their Coke with me. That was the biggest offence. And also I was really bitchy because I hated myself. I felt dirty. And I thought, well, that's what you get. And like, oh, she's not one of the popular girls. And it's like, that's the exact type of girl that I hated at school.
Yeah.
And so it's just really weird how it comes like full circle. But yeah, there's a few people who I had to completely cut off, but there's a few people that have come back into my life because they too have figured out that like that was a problem.
While you were talking, I had a flashback to a conversation I had with someone called Peter Mears, who I did an episode with ages ago, about 2 years ago, who was an addict, and he used to it was cocaine and alcohol with him, and he used to go into a caravan, sort of lock himself in the caravan because he had a wife and kids and everything like that, and then just contact all his friends.
Yeah.
Say, oh, look, I've got loads of Coke, I've got loads of vodka, come over and see me. And they say, yeah, and they wouldn't turn up, and he'd just be doing vodka and Coke on his own in the caravan, so...
Well, at least he did it away from his family.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's actually quite a common story. So that's the end of it. That's the end of addiction. You want to be alone. Or you can invite people, but you're secretly happy when they don't show.
Yeah.
Because you can just watch videos and live in fantasy land, which is what I did.
Yeah.
And I would only talk about like my past success, but like more time was accumulating between any time I did something worthwhile and being an addict in active addiction. So yeah, I know exactly how your friend Peter was it?
Peter, yeah.
Where he was at. I know that very well. It's bleak.
And I think he used to have, was it 2.5 litres of vodka a day or something at his peak? Or,
A day, like that can kill you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope he's all right.
Yeah, he's
better
okay now. Yeah, he's recovering now. He's had the odd lapse, but yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, because I don't like to minimise a relapse.
Yeah.
Because some people will call it a slip, but it's serious.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to persecute yourself about it, but you can't let yourself also think that's all right, because I used to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only a slip. And before you know it, I've slipped all the way down the hill.
Oh, yeah. And then it's a long way back up again.
I can't be bothered to climb that hill.
It's easier to stay down there.
Yeah. So, like, I've had to climb up the hill 3 times.
Yeah.
Probably more than that, actually. And it's so horrible. I would never want to do that again. So I do all in my power to not have to do that again.
And just try and remind yourself of the amount of effort it was to get back up there, I suppose. Yeah.
That's why I speak to girls that are just getting sober, because it reminds me of like, bloody hell, like this is awful, and that reminder is gold.
Yeah.
Because whether I help them or not, that's one thing. I hope I do. But if I don't, I've still been reminded of what's waiting for me at the bottom of that glass.
Yeah, yeah. And you were talking about acting as well. So have you done any more acting recently? I know you did your YouTube series of Fanny.
So I was in a play in 2021.
Wow.
I was the lead, actually. It was called White Witch.
Yeah.
And I played a character called Annie who married a horrible slave owner in Jamaica. And I ended up killing him.
Ooh.
So, yeah. Well, the character did, not me.
No, not you personally.
Don't worry, I'm innocent. But that was really great because it was my first experience of acting sober. So at drama school, I was broken down and never built back up again, really.
Dear.
So that's actually when the alcohol issues really kicked in.
Really?
It's quite common, actually. But I sobered up. I was about 1.5 years and I got the part. And it was a wonderful experience because I had so long to prepare. I knew all the lines. I developed the character. And I knew that I wasn't going to have to wing it. And so some of the other actors, you know, they don't have what I have. So they would be just white knuckling it till the end of the performance, where they would have booze in their dressing room for the second that they came off.
God.
And I just thought that I used to feel that way as well,
Yeah.
because you want to let your hair down, you want to relax after you've done all that work. But for me, I realized, I had it wrong before. The party's on the stage.
Yeah.
And then afterwards is rest time.
Yeah.
And I could not believe that I thought, like, oh, wow, I'm so boring. No, I'm not. I'm a professional.
Yeah.
I'm a professional. And I was mentally agile enough to cover up other people's mess ups on the stage in real time.
Yeah.
So that to me is a job well done. And even though like the reviews were probably rubbish, I don't read them. I felt that was an incredible experience. So that was 2021. And then ever since 2020, my wonderful friend Spiros and I have been working on this 1950s frazzled housewife. And she was inspired a bit by my grandmother and a little bit my mother, about those women that, you know, they're so codependent that they can't ever let you know that they're upset. They're like, they'll slit their wrists, but they'll do it over the sink. Yeah? So like,
make a mess of the carpet.
yes, because back in the 50s, I remember I was dating for the first time after lockdown, and the amount of chauvinist guys that wanted a 1950s like fanny type blew my mind. And so I was inspired to do that. And it just came to me one day, like while I was doing a HIIT workout at home. I did a lot of that in lockdown, keep my sanity. And Spiros, I knew he was the one that could make it happen. And I just love doing it because it's a really great place to put my crazy. It's got to go somewhere.
What's in the next 9 minutes then that you'd like to talk about
Well,
that we haven't covered?
yes.
Okay.
So this year has just started and I'm really excited about it because I like to go into all New Year's with a positive attitude because I've seen what having a negative story in here can do to my life. So everything is happening around me and I know that I'm being taken care of. That's the mantra for 2025. And I really have found that good things should not be hard to get. They should flow easily. And pain does not actually really have purpose. And that is a lie that I thought was true all my life.
Yeah.
As a millennial, you know, I thought like, well, you got to graft. And no. Actually, when I'm in sync with the universe, everything falls into my lap.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to be able to relax about my life because last year I was doing a lot of like, oh God, like you're going to be 40. You know? And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to be 40.
Yeah.
So what?
Yeah.
So what? Who cares?
Put a lot of pressure on these milestones, don't we, with age and things, that I should have had this by this age
Yeah.
or this by that age, and you know.
Women get it first, in
Exactly.
my opinion. 35, the old biological clock.
Oh
tick,
gosh,
tick,
yes.
tick.
Yeah, I know.
But I got over it.
Yeah.
I went through it
Yeah.
because it used to really worry me that. And a lot of girls I know, like they'll get really drunk or addicted to stuff around 34, 33, 34.
Yeah, when I was 30s, I think I went a bit like that, to be honest with you. And I think a lot of it was because I'd finished a relationship in my early 30s and thought, well, that's it. I'm never going to get married, never going to have kids. And I used to see like young babies and toddlers and I'd just start crying.
Really?
Yeah, really upset. I'm okay about it now, but...
Yeah. So
because
you
you
didn't have any...
No.
Do you regret it?
I think in hindsight, I always wanted to be with the right person. I think that was a big thing for me. I always, old-fashioned, I know, but I always wanted to have a father there. I mean, I know some people just
It's
go
a
out
lot
and
on
get
your
themselves
own.
pregnant.
Yeah.
And I was
Sorry,
never
this
the
is
right
your
person.
interview.
I know. Yeah, I was just never with the right person. I was engaged to somebody who didn't want to get married, and so what's the point of that, really? And the guy before that sort of dumped me a day and a half before we went on holiday for somebody else. And so I'm not the best judge.
Are you single?
I am, yes.
Good. Okay, guys, she's single. Form a queue, please. But yeah, I was just like, thank you for having me. This has been a lovely chat.
Thank you. And I'll put all the links to your website and your Instagram and your YouTube and what else?
If I think of
Facebook.
anything, I'll give it to you.
Yes.
Shopify.
And I'll have to do selfies after,
We will,
after
we
this
will.
as well, yeah. You'll have to do them, though, because I'm rubbish.
It's okay, we've got someone wonderful at taking pictures here.
We've got professional.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you, and thanks for coming. And please like and subscribe if you like our content, and give Georgina's artwork a look and buy some of her prints.
Buy
or even
it.
commission something of hers.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thank you.